software testing. And before we begin, let's take a quick activity, right? So explore and share examples in the live chat of some high profile software releases or updates from well-known brands like Apple, Microsoft, or Google that face significant bugs or issues. Okay. Before we move to this, right? What exactly is software testing? See, software testing is you're checking for any bugs or any issues, right? So let's say there's a website like Amazon, and you're trying to, let's say, add some products to the cart, and you're trying to check out, and it won't allow you, right? Imagine how frustrating it is for you, right? You're trying to check out, right? You want that product very much, right? So there's only one piece left, or it's a limited time offer, right? And you want that product, and you're trying to check out, right? You're trying to check out, and the checkout button is just not working. You're trying to click on everything, it's not working, okay? And with no fault of yours, you'll feel frustrated, okay? Those are known as bugs, right? Those are bugs when the software does not work as it was intended to, okay? So like it was said, right, does not work like that, okay? Those are bugs and those are issues. Okay, so in this, right, we'll explore some examples in the live chat of some high profile software releases, or any, right? Just tell me any software bug that you have faced, okay? Any software bug that you have faced in your life, right, in your lifetime, and which felt you frustrating, or which did not result in a good experience for you as a user. So include information about how these bugs or issues affected the users and the reputations of the company, or anything, right? So quickly tell me in the live chat, you can recall of any software update or release from a major brand, not necessarily a major brand. If you have anything from another brand also, right? Anyone, any company, then feel free to share that has caused frustration due to bugs or issues. Okay, how did it affect your experience? How did you feel about it? And additionally, right, additionally, after that, think about what you could have done differently to prevent those problems. Okay, what you, like, how they should have done, right? What they could have done to prevent those problems. Okay, so let's do the first part, right? First part first. Tell me, have you ever faced any bugs or any issues in your experience, and how frustrating it felt for you? Okay, how frustrating it felt for you. For me specifically, right, I faced an issue in LinkedIn, right, very recently. Imagine in LinkedIn, right, in a website, a brand as famous as LinkedIn, okay, even they had a bug. And it was what that bug was. I'll quickly tell you. It was about when you update your experiences, right? You update your experiences. So someone had updated the experience, they wanted to delete it, right? They wanted to delete it. And since they were using Internet Explorer, right, they were not using Chrome, or they were not using Mozilla Firefox, or they were not using let's say Safari, right? They were not using these browsers. They're using a previous Internet Explorer. So it was not allowing, right? So it was not allowing, and they just couldn't delete it, even though the button was there. They were clicking on the delete, right? But it just wouldn't go, right? It would just not delete, right? And that was very frustrating for them. And then what we did was, I recommended to just change a browser and check it up, right? And that worked. Okay, as soon as they changed the browser, it worked, and it was deleting. Okay, so you see, even these big brands, right? These big brands, they have bugs, and they still have bugs. Okay, so it's paramount. Okay, so don't feel that we are in a bug-free environment. They're always there. Okay, so share your examples, right? Share your examples in the live chat where you have seen a similar kind of bug, or similar kind of issue, or anything that felt you frustrating. Okay, Katarina says, plus minus year ago, right, there was a blue screen bug caused by Microsoft actualization. I think it was Microsoft. Absolutely right, Katarina, that was absolutely correct, right? And you see, I have this opened here. I will share this, right? I will share this. You have just read my mind. I was going to share this, right, with y'all. And after the live chat, right, let me read through all the examples that y'all give, then I will share that, right? We'll discuss about that. So wonderful, right? That is absolutely brilliant, Katrina. Wonderful point raised. Okay, BB says, I remembered WhatsApp issue last 2 years. Yes, correct, right? I also remember similar issues, right? That they had given some updates, and after that, right? Yeah, I keep falling into that, right? So especially in iPhones, right? When you have iOS and WhatsApp, right? There are lots of issues, right? Yeah. So great point, right? Great point. Absolutely, right? I agree with that, right? WhatsApp. Okay. Basically, every Windows operating system update, right, Francisco? That's a wonderful one, right? Every Windows. What was the last one, right, Francisco? What was the last Windows update, and what specifically caused that bug for you that frustrated you, right? So that one, okay, that one, Francisco. Tell me that one, right? Which was the latest one or the last one that you remember? Uh, Vino says Facebook and Instagram on December 2024, it was not working then. Yes, right. We know that is absolutely correct, right? That is 100% correct. There was an outage, right? I remember that. There was an outage, right? And yeah, it is very, very frustrating for users, specifically those who use those platforms quite a lot, right? And a lot of them also depend. They also earn from that, right? So those platforms, they did cause a lot of frustrations. Absolutely correct, right? We know that is absolutely correct. Theodora says, I don't remember the website exactly, but it was an online shop, and when browsing through the items after clicking load more than twice, the page kept refreshing. It just took me back to the top of the page. Not sure if that counts. Absolutely right, Theodora. That 100% counts. 100%, right? That is exactly the thing that we are talking about. So that is absolutely spot on, right, Theodora? So these are the things, right? These are the bugs. Because see, if there's a load more button, right? There's a load more button. What do you expect as a user? You click on that and it should show you more, right? So that is the expectation. And anytime if something that is expected does not work like that, right? Then that's a bug. Okay, that's a bug because that will frustrate the users. Or if you don't have sufficient information of what that button is going to do, right? Then it will definitely frustrate the users. And in today's time, right, in today's time, trust me, the attention span of users, and this is so less that users will bounce back, right? So if you have a shopping website, right, so like the example that you gave, right, there's a shopping website, and if these kind of things just frustrate the user, they'll bounce back. They have a lot of options. They'll move to a different website, right? They'll not waste for your website, right? They'll quickly browse through and go to another website. Okay, so that is a loss of customers. You cannot imagine how much revenue that company might have lost, not just for you, right? So you might have bounced back, right, moved to a different website. So uh, imagine it at a scale where thousands and thousands of users have abandoned that website due to that bug. So that's a huge revenue loss for the company. Okay, and these things still happen, right? These things still happen. That is where your role as a software tester comes into the picture, right? You need to do the testing, and that is the importance of software testing. Make sense? Okay, so these are the things, right? Oh, let me quickly go through, right? Okay. Jason says, still remember when Mask cut the jobs for X. Mask, okay, Mask cut the job for X. The first 2 weeks, X was messed up, right? Yes, Jason, that is correct, right? That is correct, right? Absolutely right. Seraphim agrees to that, right? Remembers that. Awesome, awesome, right? Suzanne says first release of Apple Maps. Okay, I don't know about that, Suzanne, but yeah, could be right. Especially first releases, right? Generally, first releases are always come with a lot of bugs, right? So yeah, but not expected from Apple, but yes, it does happen. Okay, installing Zoom on my PC, right? Or Morui says installing Zoom on my PC. Okay, absolutely right. That could, right? That could be, right? That could be. Okay. Francisco says, a great one, really. I could not record or listen more than 30 seconds WhatsApp audio on my Samsung smartphone for like 6 months before they fixed it. Oh my God, right? Yeah, that's a big one, right? That's a big one, Francisco, especially coming from WhatsApp, right? Coming from WhatsApp, owned by Meta, right? So coming from Meta, it's a big one, right? That's a big uh, bug. Okay. Stephen says iOS update, right? I think update this one version. My camera stopped working. Absolutely right, Stephen. Yes. Every time iOS has some update, right? I find some of the functionality, right, just messes up, especially for me, right? It's very frustrating, right? So I feel for you, Stephen, and I agree with that. Absolutely. Okay, Seraphim says, Francisco, I was also victim of the similar bug with Samsung, right? Perfect, right? Perfect. Absolutely, absolutely. Samsung says, WhatsApp had an issue with view once feature. Users could download pictures that they were supposed to be viewed with. Yes, Samsung, right? Yeah. Brilliant, right? That's a brilliant point, right? Brilliant point, Samsung. I remember that, right? Yeah, I remember that. That was a bug, right? Yeah, great point, right? Great one. Absolutely. Okay, Jumana says, I remember there was a bug on WhatsApp. If you listen voice note, it still appears as if you didn't listen. Ended up wasting my time re-listening to voice notes or listening to very frustrating. I feel for you, Jumana. I feel for you. Okay, yeah. So y'all see, Nevesi says, I've noticed that in one of the popular food delivery apps, even after selecting vegetarian filter, non-vegetarian items still appear in the results, it can be a bit confusing and makes it harder for users who follow vegetarian diet to find suitable options efficiently. Brilliant, right? Navyasri, did I get your name correct? Just correct me if I got it incorrect. But yeah, brilliant, right? That's exactly the point, right? Imagine this, right? Wonderful example. Okay, so you're a vegetarian and you're trying to filter, right? You add that filter and you expect it to work accordingly, right? And you're just browsing. So at the back of your mind, you know that you've applied that filter, so everything should be vegetarian. And if sometimes you are multitasking and absent-mindedly you just pick on some items, right? And it's not vegetarian. So that's really not good, right? That's really not good from the company. Okay. So brilliant point, right? Brilliant point raised there. And wonderful, right? Wonderful. Absolutely. I love the GIFs, right? Seraphim, I love the GIFs, right? I love the GIFs. Y'all can also feel free to post GIFs, right? Feel free to use these GIFs and they're absolutely amazing. Okay, Jixing says Body Shop was almost shut down years ago because of the bug from their app payment system. Okay, okay, I'm not aware of that one, Jixing, but yeah, if you say so, right? Yeah, must have happened. And so the point, right? You reiterate the point. So brilliant point again. You see how important are analyzing these bugs, testing these bugs, and getting them fixed at the proper time. How important it is, because huge revenue losses, right? Company shut down, right? Body Shop almost shut down. Okay, so okay, you can just imagine the importance of software testing. Okay, so now quickly I'll take you through the couple of examples that I had, right? So yeah, this is one of the ones, right, that you had shared. Who had shared? I think Jixin, right? Jixin, you had shared, or someone had shared, right, in the beginning. So what happened, right? You had in July 19th, 2024, right? 19th of July 2024, there was an incident with Microsoft, right? There was an incident with Microsoft, and it was specifically a defective update from CrowdStrike, right? CrowdStrike was an American cybersecurity company, and they sent an update, okay? Because while maintaining, you keep updating, right? You keep updating your program. So the CrowdStrike, right? CrowdStrike sent an update, and because of that, that triggered a major IT crisis for Microsoft customers, because it all the systems, right? All Microsoft systems, you could see a blue screen like this, right? So blue screen of death. Okay, so all Microsoft systems, a lot of Microsoft, not all, but a lot of Microsoft systems, it was all on blue screen of death because of that update. Okay, now because of this, right, you might feel that it's just a blue screen, right? You just refresh or you just wait for some time for them to fix it, but it does not work like that, because there were a lot of domains, right? There were a lot of domains which cannot do that. Okay, so you have significant global repercussions. Within hours, organizations worldwide were impacted and disrupting daily operations, causing widespread panic. Those widespread panic, significant impacts were felt around the world quickly. Sectors such as social services, right? Hospital networks. You cannot stop hospital networks, right? They don't stop. Emergency services, right? 911, they don't stop, right? Even if it is, see, you can stop, right? If you see a blue screen of death in your Microsoft system, you can stop, right? You can say that, let's say maybe tomorrow I'll work on it, right? Or day after, you can stop. But these systems, they cannot stop. Airport, right? Airport, I remember the airports were stalled, right? Flights were stalled. Okay, so these sectors got stalled, right? These sectors were affected, and you cannot imagine the huge losses these entire sectors have faced. Okay, all because of that one update and one bug. Okay, so these are the important stuff, right? So there was another critical 0-day vulnerability in Chrome, right? So in as latest as, so that one was in 2024, this one was in 2023, I think, somewhere around end of 2023. This one was from Chrome, right? So from Google, right? The giant, right? Alphabet. Okay, Google had a 0-day vulnerability. What is a 0-day vulnerability? See, 0-day is when you don't have time to recover from it. For example, let's say a vulnerability is out already there, in the wild, right? The vulnerability already there, and you don't know about it, and you're just realizing it right now, and it is vulnerable to attacks, right? And you just realize it right now. So it's already there, it's deployed, right? The product is already there in the market, it's already deployed, people are using it. So you have 0-day to work on it, right? It's like it starts right now. You don't get 2 days that maybe, okay, within this 2 days I can fix a patch, or I can share some update, right? I cannot do that. I cannot do anything. It's a 0-day vulnerability, right? You have to start working on it, correct? But it's already started, right? You don't have the time to uh, time to catch up or patch up, right? You don't have anything, right? So that's a 0-day vulnerability. So one such vulnerability was there in 2023, right? As written as 2 years, right? Just I think less than 2 years ago. I think this was in September 2023, and that caused a lot of issues, right? That caused a lot of issues in hijacking of gaining control, right? So the attacker could gain control of the memory allocation, right? In Skia. So this allowed them to inject malicious code and manipulate memory in ways that bypass the Chrome sandbox, ultimately leading to arbitrary code execution on the user system. So you imagine how difficult this is, right? So how malicious this could be, okay, and how important catching those were. Okay, the points that I wanted to highlight here were two. Even big companies have these bugs, right? They also have these, and they have this as latest as 2024. This one was in 2024. This one was in 2023, right? So as soon as these. Okay, and major, right? Major, not anything small, right? So you have these bugs, right? You have these bugs, and these things are there. So therefore, software testing is very important. You need to catch those, and that is this entire domain about. All right, I hope now you understand what exactly that domain is, what that does. Now, quickly, I'll give you an overview, right? So imagine, for example, you're about to board a brand new airplane for a long-awaited vacation. As you settle into your seat, the pilot announces that they've completed building the plane, but there's one crucial step left, right? Testing. Okay, so they've built the entire plane and everything is there, and they say that, okay, we've not tested, right? We've not tested this plane, but we'll fly it now. Okay, how do you think, right? How do you think you would feel, right? Knowing that the plane has not undergone any rigorous testing before the takeoff. How vulnerable, how bad will you feel? Okay. So would you still feel the confidence in the safety and reliability? No, right? So just like in aviation, software also undergoes testing to ensure it operates smoothly. Okay, it has to go efficiently, and most importantly is the safety aspect of it. The example that I just showed you about, right? Google, okay, Chrome had that vulnerability, 0-day vulnerability, right? Again, they didn't have time to respond. It's already there in the wild, right? The product is already there. It's already people know about it, and the uh, bug is known by the attackers, right? So that's a 0-day vulnerability. So safety, right? How important is safety? Okay. So in today's lesson, right, we will provide a comprehensive overview of software testing, right? What are the learning objectives that we have? So clarity in the significance of software testing. So like you must now have understood what is the significance of testing in the entire field of software development. That is the significance of software testing. Okay. We'll look at some common testing objectives, right? And we'll see, identify and describe the role of testing in each phase of the software development lifecycle. We'll define the different stages of the software testing lifecycle. So there's an entire life cycle of software testing. It's not that you just arbitrarily go and start testing anything that you want, right? No, it doesn't work like that, right? There's an entire life cycle that we'll discuss about. Okay, we'll describe the roles and responsibilities of a software tester. So as a software tester, what are your roles, right? What are your responsibilities? So we'll discuss all those. Okay, so moving forward, right? Moving forward, what are the test objectives, right? So what are the test objectives? So testing is like checking something to make sure it works the way it's supposed to. So this is the essence, right? This is the crux of it. Testing is basically like checking something to make sure it works the way it is supposed to. So if you see a button, right, like the load more button that you shared, okay, so you share that load more button, right? It is supposed to load more products, okay, but it's not working like that, right? It's not working the way it's supposed to. Or for example, the filter, right? The veg non-veg filter that someone shared about in the live chat, right? And if it's not working like that, okay, so that is the essence of it. That is testing, right? It's like checking if something, to make sure it works the way it's supposed to, right? So if anything is supposed to work like that, you check whether it's working like that or not. That is the essence of testing. Okay, uh, that is the like the broad overview, right? We'll go into the more nuances of it, but that's like in one sentence. Okay, so software testing is like giving software a quality check before it's used. The goal of software testing is to make sure the software does what it's supposed to do without any problems or glitches, right? That is the goal of software testing. You need to make sure that we look at each aspect of the product and see that it's doing what it's supposed to. Right now, even after that, it might there might be bugs. Okay, so bugs might be still be released, but that is the goal, right? That's the goal that we work towards. Okay, what are the objectives, right? What are the objectives of the testing? Check the work early. Right now, this is very important. Check the work early. Why? Because a stitch in time saves 9. right? So if you've heard of that proverb, stitch in time saves nine. If you save it early, right, you save a lot of stuff, right? So it's not, see, if you have a bug, right, if you have a bug in your initial stages, it's not linear that that bug stays, right? It's not linear. It progresses in geometric progression. So that one bug in later stages of development can lead to multiple bugs. So one bug can lead to 5 bugs. So if I have a bug in, let's say, one of my files, right, so I'm doing some coding and I have a bug in one file, right, and that file is used by 5 other files. So all those 5 other files can also introduce additional bugs, and those 5 files might be used by other 20 files, right, or other developers. And so the bug will keep propagating in geometric progression, right? So checking the work early is reviewing things like requirements, design, and the code before the product is finished. You do that early, you'll save it. Like, you'll save a lot of stuff, right? You'll save it a lot of other bugs that could have happened. Okay, find the problems, right? Run the tests that might break the system to uncover hidden defects. You cover enough ground, right? Make sure all important features and conditions are tested, right? So this is also important. You make sure that all the important features that are there in the product, for example, if it is an e-commerce website, so make sure the checkout cart is working, right? The products are working. You can look at all the products, you can see the functionalities, and all the important features are working or not, right? Reduce risk, help prevent serious problems that could cost time, money, or safety, right? Confirm if it works, right? Make sure that the software does what it was supposed to do. Meet rules and regulations. Check the software follows laws, contracts, or industry standards. Share useful info. Give teams and stakeholders the data they need to make smart decisions. Okay, so once you have done a testing, and let's say you've caught a bug, right? So you share the information, right? You have to share the information with the team. You need to share it with the stakeholders, right? So that they can take smart decisions accordingly, right? And this is where, you remember, if I talked about the communication earlier, right? So this is where communication comes into the picture, right? So being good at communication is very helpful, because if you can give them well communicated or well documented steps of what that bug was or details of that bug, then they'll be able to make those decisions better, right? And if they do not understand what you've sent, or if you're not able to communicate it well, then they'll not be able to make good decisions, and might ultimately lead to that bug still being persisting. Okay, so build trust, right? Help everyone feel more confident that the product is reliable. So build trust, right? Like have a robust testing. So that helps in building the trust. Make sure it's ready, right? Validate that the software is complete and behaves as users expect. Okay, test process in context, right? For example, let's look at the entire process in some context, because see, testing does not happen in vacuum, right? So when you're testing, it's not that you're testing in space, right? You're not in Mars or in space, right? You're not in vacuum. Okay, it's shaped by the environment, right? What is the environment? It's your team, right? There you have the team. There are some goals for each project. There's some domain, right? So a banking domain might have different thing, right, as compared to let's say an e-commerce domain, right, or online domain, right? So or let's say a cyber domain, right? So there might be different domains. So the way of testing is planned, designed, and executed based on those factors. All right, and environments are like not exactly a physical environment, but when you're developing or you're testing, you have some environment in your workspace, right? For example, my machine might not have the same tools or same, let's say if you're working on Java, it might not have the same libraries or same Java version that is there in your machine. Okay, so that is the difference in environments, right? It's not the same version conflicts or different tools or different libraries that are not there. Okay, so that is the meaning of environment. All right. So stakeholders, right? Stakeholders, their expectations, priorities, and willingness to collaborate. Team is the skills, experience, and availability matters. The business domain, like I told you, right, is the criticality, what is the risk, what is the legal or regulatory needs of that domain. Technology and architecture, again, what the product is built on. Project constraints, what is the time, budget, and scope. Organization, policies, tools, development, methods used. Okay, so these are the various testing process, right? So these are the uh, environment. These are different factors on which it depends, right? So this is all the factors which shape the goals of the project. All right. Now the testware, right? What is the testware? Testware is your basically everything, right? So everything that you have used, everything that you've used during the entire testing process, not just the test cases, but all the supporting materials, which include the documents, right? The planning documents. So you have made some plans for the documents, right? For the test plans. We'll talk about these in details, right? Don't worry about this. We'll talk about these in details, but here we are talking about what is the testware. Okay, so testware are the different documents, because when you are creating a test case, you make some documents. Okay, and those are your planning documents. So those documents are known as your testware, right? You design some artifacts, those are your testware, right? Your execution and tool logs. So let's say you've written a piece of testing code, right? And you've run that, right? So execution tools and logs, right? They'll script what was happening, and the details will be scripted, right? So those are the logs. Okay, completion and deliverables, right? Test summary reports, lessons learned, and improvement actions. Okay, importance of testing, right? Importance of testing, that is what we discussed with some few examples. Those are the importance of testing, but let's look at some more examples of real life incidents that demonstrate the importance. So in the 1980s, there were software defects in the Thirac 25 radiation therapy machine, which caused several fatal errors, leading to the loss of lives of some patients. Okay, so there is more info here in the articles, but look at how tragic it was, right? So that software defect resulted in the loss of lives, right, of some patients. How tragic it is. Okay, in 1996, the Ariane 5 rocket, which was worth $1 billion in 1996, mind you, right? So $1 billion is worth much more right now, right? It's not exactly the same $1 billion. Okay, could be like $5 billion or something right now, right? I don't know exactly the how much that conversion would be, but it's much more now, right? So that much was destroyed due to a software bug in the guidance, in its guidance computer. So just because of a bug in the guidance computer, the entire $1 billion rocket was destroyed. Okay, just seconds after liftoff. Right, you can read more of the details here, but imagine, right? Just imagine. Okay, in 2011, Honda had to recall millions of vehicles globally, right, including the popular Accord sedan, due to a software issue that could damage the automatic transmission. So they had to recall all those vehicles. Now just imagine uh, the business loss, right? You can just only imagine how much business loss it is, right? You have to recall those vehicles, fix them, and then resend them, right? So the logistics cost and everything put together, right? It's a huge business loss. Okay, so these examples, right? These examples highlight the significant impact that software defects can have on individuals and the entire organizations. They can harm a company's reputation and result in substantial cost associated with fixing the problems and potential legal liabilities. So it's not just about fixing the problem, not just recalling the vehicles and fixing the problem. There is legal issues also, right? So potential legal liabilities, and the company's reputation is also at stake, because once damage that reputation, it is very hard to build that, right? So once that is damaged, it takes years and years of effort to build that. Okay, so damage to that is really heartening, right? And all because of a bug, right? So that is the importance of software testing, right? I hope that is absolutely clear how important software testing is and how important this domain is. So how important it is for the company to have quality software testers, right? Really knowledgeable and experienced, competent software testers. And that is where ICTQB exam comes into the picture. That will give the companies a proof of a benchmark that, yeah, you are competent enough in the domain. Okay, time for some exercise, right? Time for some fun exercise. Which of the following best describes the importance of software testing in a banking mobile application? Okay, so you have a banking mobile application. Out of these four options, which one best describes the importance of software testing? Option A, do you think ensures the app has a visually appealing interface? Or B, do you think verifies that the app handles user data securely and processes transactions accurately? Or C, do you think make sure the app can be downloaded quickly from the App Store? Or D, guarantees that the app includes the latest social media integration features? Which of these do you think is the best describes the importance of software testing in banking mobile application? Tell me in the live chat, right? Tell me in the live chat, which one do you think? And I'll see how much you have understood yet, or you've not understood. Okay, you all have already responded, right? Sorry, I didn't see that. Okay, okay. Second, right? Francisco says second for sure, right? And you are absolutely correct, right? Francisco, that is 100% correct, right? Katrina, two is correct, right? B is correct, right? Ebenezer, Teodora, right? Absolutely correct, right? Everyone correct, right? B is correct, right? B is correct. Valentina says verifies that the app handles user data correctly and transactions accurately. Absolutely, right? Perfect. That is absolutely correct, right? Seraphim says, way to go, right? Super proud of you. Awesome, right? You all got your first knowledge check, right? So these small questions will be there in your lessons, and these are knowledge checks which will help you test. Now these are different from your assessments, right? These are not your assessments. They will be separate, right? Assessments will be a standalone lesson that you open, and there'll be like 10, 12 MCQ questions. But these are within the lesson, right? These are within the lessons, and these are knowledge checks, right? So make sure you do these, and there are no grades for this, right? There are no grades for this, so make sure you practice. And you see this two left here, right? So check at two left. That means you have two attempts, right? You have two attempts. I click on this once, and it will show me that one left. So I have one more attempt. So if I get it incorrect in the first one, it shows a green tick mark. That means I got it correct, right? And if it does not show a green tick mark, that means you got it incorrect. So you have one more attempt left. Okay, so you get two attempts. So try them, and there are no grades for this. So make sure you attempt these, right? It's for your practice, right? The more practice you do, the better it is. So these are for practice, right? And yeah, this is absolutely correct. Verifies that the app handles user data securely and processes transactions accurately. That is 100% correct, because that is what is the importance of software testing, right? Ensures that the app has visually appealing interface. No, that does not matter, right? Because even if an app has visually appealing interface, it's not for software testing, right? So that's the front end, right? That's the front end part of it. When you're building an application, you have a front end, you have a back end, and testing is different. Okay, so make sure the app can be downloaded quickly from the app store, right? Not so much, right? Guarantees that the app includes the latest social media integration features. That again, right, which features included, not included, is not part of your testing, right? Your job is testing is that if it says that this feature has been included, if it shows me a button for Facebook, and if I click on that, it should take me to Facebook, right? If it shows a link for X or Twitter, right? X, right? Yeah. If I click on it, it should take me over there, right? If it does not, then that is an issue. Okay. But keeping it there or not, right? That is the requirements. If the client does not require that, it will not be there, right? Integration feature is not there. Okay. So correct, right? Well done, guys, right? Well done. You all have exceptionally done correctly in the first knowledge check, right? Okay, now exploring the different testing roles, right? So there are different testing roles that we have. What are different testing roles? So one is the software tester or QA engineers. These are the professionals specifically trained in software testing. They design the test cases, execute the test, report the defects, and ensure that the software meets quality standards. Developers, right? So developers are who? So developers are actually the software developers, right? They are developing the product, right? So they are involved in the extensive coding, right? So when you see the coding and all those part, those are the developers, right? Developers do that, right? They are responsible for the code and how the website looks like, or how the product is supposed to work, the backend part, integrating with the database, everything, right? That's part of the developers. So as a tester, that's not your job. So therefore, do not worry much about if you don't know coding, or if you're not that much interested in coding, because that's the job of developers, right? The coding part is developers. Okay, it's good if you know it, right? If it's good if you know coding, and if you're interested in it, right? It's good, it's better, but not really required as a software tester. Okay, so as a software tester, you have different set of tools, right? You have different set of tools, different set of technologies. Okay, and we'll discuss more as we progress in our program. We'll discuss more on those, but that's the demarcation between the developers and the testers. Okay. Automation testers, right? These testers specialize in creating automated tests that can be run repeatedly to check for regressions or repetitive tasks, right? So automation tests are some pieces of test cases that we create, which can be automated, right? So it is done automatically. You don't have to do it manually. So there is some automation testing, there's some manual testing. We will work on this. You have separate individual lessons on this. One is manual testing that we'll do in the next lecture, and we have automation testing, right, that we'll soon do. So we have different types of testing, right? So automation is one of those. So automation testers are those who create those automation scripts, right? Those are automation testers. So if you're interested in automation, right, if you're interested in creating those automation test scripts, then automation testers is the role for you. Okay, you have the users or beta testers. In user acceptance testing is again a type of testing. Don't worry about these keywords right now. These are different types of testing that we'll discuss, right? So actual users or beta testers may be involved in testing the software in real world environment and provide feedback for its usability and functionality. Okay, so what are users or beta testers? So let's say if I have a product, right? I have a product which is ready for deployment, right? So I will have a set of beta testers, right? And I will initially only release it to them, right? I'll ask for their feedback, right? So those are the beta testers. They will test whether it's working correctly or not, and provide with the feedback of where the bugs are, what bugs, and that can be rectified. Okay. Then you have the quality assurance, right? You have the QA teams. QA teams are responsible for overall quality management, including defining testing processes, standards, and strategies, as well as coordinating testing efforts across different teams. Okay, so they are there for the quality, right? Now, see, testing is whether it's the program is working or not. Quality assurance is for the quality of it, right? Now, if let's say a particular product passes your testing, right? So you're doing some testing on that and you don't find any bugs, right? So the product is working as it is intended to, right? How it showcases it is working. Okay, that does not mean it is of high quality, right? Quality is different. Okay, and whether a particular product is working correctly or not, testing that is different. So a product could be working as intended, right, without any defects, without any bugs, right? It could be working, but at the same time it could be of low quality, right? That is possible. Okay, so QA team will assure whether the quality of the product is up to the mark or not, right? So they are responsible for the overall quality management of it. Okay, so that is the QA team, right? And testing team is what it is looking at the functionality, whether it's working correctly or not, right? What it's required is it doing that or not. Okay, then you have the product managers and owners. Product managers or owners may also be involved in testing to ensure that the software meets the requirements and expectations of the stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? Stakeholders are the clients, right? Clients want the product to be made, right? So you have the product managers and the owners of the products, right? So they can also be involved in the phase to ensure that because it's their requirements, right? So they know best what they want, and they have some clarity in their mind, right? And they have some expectations. So it's good if they are also involved, right? So they can ensure that what they want is what is being built, right? And whether the testing is working accordingly or not. Okay, so overall testing is a collaborative effort involving multiple stakeholders, each contributing their expertise to ensure the quality and reliability of the software. So you see how it involves multiple stakeholders, and that is where your communication is again important, right? Because you have to communicate with all the team members, not just the developers, the stakeholders, right? To the team managers, right? So everyone. Okay, so that is about it, right? And software quality assurance versus software testing, right? So yeah, this is what I was telling you. So note here, right? Software quality assurance is different, software testing is different, right? Though they are related, but they have different roles. QA focuses on ensuring that the development process and standards lead to high quality software. Now, a low quality software could also be in working condition, right? So testing is about identifying defects. So a low quality software could also have no defects, right? It could have defects or no defects, and high quality software could also have defects, right? So quality is different, having defect or no defect is different, right? So checking for the defects is the testing part, checking for the quality is the QA part. Okay, makes sense, right? Makes sense. Any questions, post it in the live chat, right? Post in the live chat. And let's check your understanding, right? Let's quickly check your understanding. Every morning, right? Every morning, Alex reviews software requirements and collaborates with the development team to ensure a thorough understanding of project goals. Throughout the day, Alex meticulously designs and executes test cases, identifying bugs and issues in the software. Additionally, Alex regularly communicates with stakeholders, providing detailed reports on software quality metrics and suggesting improvements to enhance the overall user experience. What is Alex more likely to be? Is Alex a software tester, or do you think Alex is a software quality engineer, right? Is he a tester or a quality engineer? Which one of these do you think is the correct answer? Okay, Valentina says, can you make some job example for every job role, right? Seraphim has given a beautiful answer for that, right? Thank you, Seraphim, right? Wonderful. Stephen says software tester, right? Software tester. Okay, BB says one, right? Samson says B. Uh, Theodore says tester, right? Omori says one. Ina says software quality engineer. Swarupa says B, right? Okay, those who are saying B, right? Samson, Swarupa, right? Why do you think it's B, right? Why do you think it's B? Hamid says two, right? Hamid, why do you think it's a software quality engineer and why not a software tester, right? So those who have said B, why do you think it's a quality engineer and not a tester? Yeah, tell me a reason, right? Like what looking at the question, like looking at the paragraph, right? Looking at the paragraph, what kind of told you that, yeah, this is a software quality engineer, not a software tester, right? Or vice versa, right? Vice versa. Those who said A, right? Those who said software tester, why do you think it was a software tester and not a quality engineer, right? Why? Samsung says because of extra work on the quality of the software. Okay, Samson, right? Okay, okay. Okay, let me say Inas is typing something, right? Let me see what Inas is typing. And others, right? Those who said A, right? Those who said A, why? Why do you think A? Suzanne says Alex designs and executes test cases. Tiara says because he designs and executes test cases. Okay, okay. Hamid, why did you say two, right? Hamid, why? What was your reasoning behind two? And anyone else said B? Okay, Ines has said they design and execute test cases and liaise with the other stakeholders to ensure the entire process leads to a good software outcome. Correct, right? Correct. Absolutely right. Omnia says it design and execute test cases, right? Nursery says Alex has to make sure that there were no bugs in application. That's why I go for software tester, right? Francisco says Alex regularly communicates with stakeholders, providing detailed reports on software quality metrics, suggesting improvements to enhance the overall user experience. That's way far from only a tester. Francisco, so what was your answer, Francisco? That was a tester or Francisco, so what was the answer according to you? Okay, Francisco, I did not answer, but I'd say B, right? Okay, no, Francisco, right? No, B is not correct, right? It's a software tester, right? So he's testing, right? So whoever said A, right? You all were correct. And see, Alex is reviewing the software requirements, right? Reviewing the software requirements. He's collaborating with the development team to ensure thorough understanding of the project goals. Okay, throughout the day, what is Alex doing? He's meticulously designing and executing the test cases. So he's looking at the test cases, right? So for example, let's say the checkout process, right? So he's designing a test case that will check whether the checkout process is working or not, right? Or let's say the filter functionality that is working or not, right? So he designed the test case and executing it, looking at whether it's working correctly or not, right? He's identifying bugs and issues in the software. Okay, so he's regularly communicating with the stakeholders. All this is part of the software tester, right? Regularly communicating with the stakeholders, providing detailed report on the quality metrics and suggesting improvements, enhance overall user experience, right? It is all part of the software tester, right? Quality engineer will check for the overall quality of the product, right? So that's for the overall quality of the product. Okay. So this is a software tester, right? So you can see the green tick mark, and sometimes it'll just give you one, right? Because we just had two options. It'll give you just one try. So try this, right? Try these. These are for your practice. Okay. So that's the understanding here, right? That's the understanding here. I hope that was clear for those who said B. Any confusions now? Those who said B, right? Is it clear? Is it clear? Okay, Stephen says, question, is there a difference between software quality engineer and software quality assurance engineer? Because honestly, for a second, Alex looked like software QA engineer, except for the keyword test case, right? Correct. Yeah, Stephen. It could be right. It could be somewhat overlapping, right? It is kind of not that demarcated, right? You're correct. Because ultimately it all comes out of software testing, right? So that is correct. Okay, but no, right? Software quality engineer and software quality assurance engineer is the same, right? It's the same. And you have what you have here is the where is it gone, right? So you have the software quality engineer, right? Now, see, the software quality engineer will focus on the overall quality of the product, right? So how the quality of the product, he'll not be executing the test case, right? He'll not be designing the test case. No, that's not what he'll do. Okay. He'll not be identifying the bugs and issues, right? That's not part of the quality engineer. Okay. He'll look at the quality, right? He'll look at the overall quality, right? And communication, right? Communication will be there, right? Definitely that is there to improve the metrics, right? So this part is there, right? This part is there. So it's like I told you, right? It's kind of overlapping, right? It's kind of overlapping. It's not mutually exclusive. Okay, so you have some overlapping parts also, and that might confuse you, right? That's why I spent some time in this to have you that clarification. Okay, so both roles are there, right? Both roles are there, and that is there. Let's talk about details into the roles and responsibilities. Before that, let me quickly look at the chat, right? Ina says, what is the difference between software tester, QA analyst, and other roles, right? Yeah, let's quickly look into these, right? Let's quickly look into these in details. Valentina says, that's why examples were useful to me to understand differences, right? Absolutely, right? Perfect, right? That's perfect, right, Valentina? Absolutely correct. Okay. So, yeah. So, roles and responsibility, right? Look at this, right? Testing versus debugging, right? So, testing and debugging are related, but they are not the same, right? So, testing is about finding the problem, and it reveals something that is wrong by causing a failure or identifying a defect. Debugging is what? Debugging is about fixing the problem, right? Debugging is you reproduce the failure, you diagnose the root cause, and you fix that, right? That is debugging. Testing was what? Testing was about to find it, right? Debugging is to actually diagnose the root cause, what is causing that issue, right? Fix it. Okay. After fix, the testers often run confirmation test to check if the problem is really solved or any regression test is to be done on that. So those tests are done. Okay. Now errors, defects, failures, and root causes. So errors are what? See, errors can be, now these keywords are important, right? These keywords are important. Errors are what? Errors are human mistakes like misunderstanding a requirement or writing the wrong logic in code, because it's ultimately humans who are developing the code, right? So errors can be, right, human mistakes can be there, and those are errors. Okay. What are defects? Defects, or also called bugs or faults, right, are the results of those mistakes. So the results of those mistakes are known as defects. Okay, so found in the code documentation. So when let's say a developer is writing a code, and they have some human mistake, right? They have some let's say some logical issue, right? They've missed a condition. Okay, that can result in a defect. That results in a defect. Okay, and failure happens when a defect is executed and causes a problem in the system to behave incorrectly. Okay, like for example, in the bug that we saw of Microsoft, right? CrowdStrike had an update. Okay, so in that update, a human, right? So a human must have written that update. Okay, in that update, they must have made a human mistake. That was the error. Okay, what was the defect, right? Defect are the results from those mistakes, right? So when uh, the system is not working, right? So you see the blue screen of death, right? So that is the defect, right? That is the bug. Okay, and failure is what? That when the defect is executed, once you execute that, right, once you execute that, which is causing the system to behave incorrectly, like let's say the system are not working correctly, that is when the failure is happening. Okay, so not all defects cause the failures right away, because see, those defects could be there, right? The defects are there, but they're not causing failures right away, right? Some only show up under certain conditions, and others may not show up at all. That does not mean that defect is not there, right? The defect can still be there. Okay, root cause refers to the underlying reason why the error happened in the first place. For example, if a developer misunderstood a requirement, the root cause might be unclear in the documentation. Understanding the root cause helps teams prevent the future defects, not just fix what went wrong. Okay. Now, key responsibilities of a software tester. Right now, you can look into this, right? So, what are the key responsibilities of a software tester? Okay. This is what the software tester does, right? Now, once you understand this, then you will understand the role of a software tester, and then you'll be able to distinguish it from an quality engineer, right? Quality assessment engineer. Okay. So the key points, right? So understanding and reviewing the requirements. So the first thing is you have some requirements, right? So you have some requirements to perform the software testing. So understanding and reviewing those requirements, that is part of the software tester, right? So it's the responsibility of a software tester. Okay. Creating the test cases. Once you've understood, you've seen the product, and creating those test cases to test that, right? That is part of the software tester, right? Software tester role. Okay. So after understanding the requirements, creating test cases is the major responsibility of the software tester. So whenever you see these keywords of creating the test case or executing the test case, all comes for a software tester, right? Role of the software tester. Then test documentation. So once you have found those bugs, right, or you have found some issues in your test, right? So once you have executed the test, you have some bugs that you want to report. Documentation, right? So you need to maintain the test cases and test plans and test scripts to inspect and remove those errors. Okay, so documentation is very important. Test execution, right? Execute the test equally is an integral part of testing. Testers can assess if the software product is free from defects, perform accurately, or need improvement. Okay, so that is test execution. Okay, then again, reporting the defects. Another important task is for a software tester is to report the defects to the developers, because once you found those defects, you need to report it to the developers or the team, right? Entire team. And then the developers will find the root cause of it and they'll fix it. Okay. So that is also part of the responsibility of a software tester. Okay. Collaborating with the developers to ensure smooth and effortless working experience. Both developers and testers need to work closely. This helps them verify issues and resolve them instantly, right? So this is all part of your software tester responsibility. Okay, so these are the roles, right? So now once you understood this, right? Once you understand this, then you can easily distinguish between what is for quality assurance and what is for software testing, right? So all those in the last paragraph that we did. Now, if you revisit those paragraphs, you'll find that, okay, these are all the roles of a software tester. Okay, let's do another exercise, right? Let's look at another exercise. Imagine you're a part of a team developing a new mobile app for a major retail company, right? So you're developing a new mobile app. The app aims to enhance the shopping experience by providing features such as personalized recommendations, a seamless checkout process, and real-time order tracking, right? Select the three key roles of software testers and how each contributes to overall success of the project. Okay, so out of these, right, out of these options, out of 5 options, we need to select three, right? We need to select three, which are the roles of a software tester. Okay, so first one, whether it's a role of a software tester or not. If it is a role of a software tester, you tick mark it. Okay, and whenever you see a square box, that means multiple answers are correct, right? So you need to choose multiple options. Okay, so look at the first one, right? Understanding and reviewing requirements to ensure that all features are tested against the specific criteria, preventing any aspect of the app from being overlooked. Is this yes or no, right? Give me a yes or no if you think this is part of the software tester role or this is not, right? Understanding and reviewing the requirements to ensure that all features are tested against the specific criteria and preventing any aspect of the app from being overlooked. Like, is this part of the software tester role? Yes or no? We'll look at one by one each of the options. First option, tell me yes or no in the live chat, right? Yes or no? Yes, right? Samson says yes, right? Binu says yes. Sakesh says yes, right? All says yes, right? Absolutely, right? Ines, I already given the answer, right? ABD, right? Okay, Ines, we'll see, right? We'll see whether ABD is there or not, right? Hamid says S. I mean, is that a short for yes? S is a short for yes, or yeah, I guess, right? I guess S is a short for yes, right? Yeah, that's cool, right? I haven't seen that S for short for yes, right? Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so that yes, right? This is correct, right? Reviewing the documents, right? Reviewing the requirements is one part of the software tester's responsibility, right? It's absolutely correct. Okay, creating test cases to guide the testing process systematically, ensuring that every function of the app is tested and issues are identified and fixed early, right? Is fixed early, right? Is this software tester's role? Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes, right. Yes, right. Absolutely right. Perfect, right? Perfect. Absolutely correct, right? Wonderful, right? Wonderful. Yes, right. Why? Because you're creating the test case, right? You're guiding the test process systematically. You're ensuring that every function of the app is tested. Okay, so absolutely correct, right? Third is designing user interfaces to improve user satisfaction. What is a user interface? So user interface is how the website looks like, right? Or any application like this pane that you see here in Codio, right? These buttons. Okay, this buttons you see here, right? That is the entire interface, right? Interface is how the particular this looks like, right? There's a sidebar. Like if I click on this, there's a sidebar. Okay, these are the interface. Okay, so designing user interface to improve the user satisfaction, make the application more intuitive, reduce user errors. Is this part of the role of no, right? Correct, right? Fatia, correct. Theodora, correct. Francisco, correct. Right? Samson, correct. Stephen says, no, that's for UX UI, right? Absolutely, right? Stephen, 100%, right? That's brilliant, right? That's UX UI. And for those who do not know UX UI, UX is user experience, UI is user interface, right? So that is 100% correct, right? So this is not part of your testing. It's user experience. UX UI is a different role, right? That's the front end, right? In front end of applications, you have the user UX UI developers who work on that, right? Fourth one is reporting defects to help developers understand and fix issues quickly, leading to a more polished and reliable app for users. Is this part of the tester's responsibility? Yes or no? Yes, right? Yes, perfect, right? Perfect. You all answered before, right? Even I can read the option, right? So brilliant, right? Excellent, right? I love this batch. Okay, y'all are simply amazing. Okay, okay. Last one, right? So definitely we had three, right? Three. So therefore this should not be because the question said three. Okay, so these three are the correct ones. Write code for new features to enhance the app's functionality, keep it competitive in the market, and meet evolving user needs. This will not be there, right? This is not under the role of a software tester. Why? Because coding, right? Like I told you, it's coding for new features. That's not part of the software tester. That's the software developers part. They will develop new features. They will write the code for it. That's the part of the developers. Okay, so absolutely correct, right? That was correct. Okay, so this ABD, right? ABD, that was correct, right? I think Samson, right? Samson, you had already specified ABD. So that's absolutely perfect, right? Jumana says they are the best, no pressure, right? Absolutely, right? They're simply amazing, right? The best, right? One of the best. Excellent, right? Absolutely perfect. Okay. So that is correct. All right. Okay. Moving on, right? Moving on. So we have an exercise, right? We have an exercise. So we will quickly take a break here, right? We'll quickly take a break of 20 minutes over here, and then we'll come back to a fun challenge, right? We have a challenge for you. We'll now practically look at the bugs and how to work on this. Okay. So Susan says, when are we taking a break? Right now, Susan, right? Okay. If it's too much, right? Too much of it, right? Yeah, we'll take a break right now. Okay. Baby says need a coffee, right? Yeah. Okay, grab a coffee, right? Grab some snacks, right? Refresh yourselves, and we'll come back after 20 minutes exactly. Okay, so yeah, Ryan, I just realized I'm not sharing the screen. So quickly give me a thumbs up, right? If you can see the screen, can you see the screen? Awesome, right? Awesome. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. So let's continue, right? Let's continue. We have discussed some part of software testing, the introduction, what are the roles and responsibilities as a tester, what is the roles of a developer, right? The differentiation between them, and what exactly is testing, right? What exactly is finding bugs and the importance of it. Okay. So now we have some exercise. We'll work on some exercise, and the exercise is simple, right? So what is the exercise? You have this website, right? I'll post this link in the live chat. You have this, you have a game here, right? You have a game here. You have to go through the instructions. You need to see what the instructions or what that particular game is saying, and if it does that or not, right? What are the bugs inside it, right? What are the functionalities it's not working, right? Which functionalities are not working? Nesri says can't hear you. One second, let me see if my am I audible? Am I audible? Okay,
Yeah,
Navisri, can you check your audio, right? Audio settings, right? Because it's audible for others, right? So yeah, maybe some issue from your side. Okay, just check, and yeah, maybe you can rejoin Zoom, right? If it still persists. Okay. So yeah, this is the bug bash exercise, right? Bug bash exercise that we'll do. I've shared the link in the live chat. Open that, right? Not right now. Don't open right now. There are some instructions. Go through the instructions and see which functionalities are working, not working, and discuss among yourselves. So we'll be moving into breakout rooms right now, right? So there'll be 4, 5 breakout rooms created. Each room will have about 4, 5 learners, and you'll discuss among yourselves. Okay. You'll get 5 minutes. Discuss amongst yourselves and see which functionalities is working, what are the bugs. Try to find as many bugs as you can, right? Whichever bugs you find, make a note of it, and after 5 minutes the breakout rooms will open. We'll gather back here and we'll discuss those. Okay, so then you can post your findings over here and we'll discuss those. Okay, I and Seraphim will jump in the rooms to see how you all are doing in case of any help needed. So we'll break out into rooms. Okay, Raya, can we start the breakout rooms? The link is there, right, in the live chat of the exercise that you need to do. So I'm sharing it again. This is the specific website that you need to play around with, and you need to find the bugs. So try to find as many bugs as possible. Okay, Seraphim, we'll jump into rooms, right? We'll jump into different rooms and we'll check on them. Awesome. Welcome back, everyone. I hope that was fun, right? How many bugs did you find? Post in the live chat, right? We'll discuss in the live chat. Quickly before that, let me share the screen. And I hope that was fun interacting in the groups. I went into some rooms and y'all were doing brilliant, right? Brilliant. Simply spot on with the accuracies of the bug, right? Not just finding the bug, but with the accuracy of it, right? It's excellent, right? Brilliant. Okay. Now post in the live chat, right? Post in the live chat so we all can discuss. And before that, right? Before that, I will show everyone, right? So let me quickly show you all what the game was. So you can see my screen, right? You can see the screen. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect, right? Awesome. Okay, awesome. Okay. All right. Now see, so this is the instruction, right? So this is a game. It's a car race game. Okay. And it gives you certain instructions. What is the instruction? It shows you a scorecard here, right? That the score is 0. And it shows you that press space to start, right? It says press space to start. And it shows you the left and right arrow. It says to move your car, use the arrow keys. So right one is for right, left one is for left. Okay. So now if I press space, right? If I press space, and if you see, right? So I will get a car, right? So you see, I get this car, okay, which I am dodging, and suddenly I crashed. So therefore, this screen comes click to restart, right? So I have to click on this to restart again, and then I can dodge the car again, right? You see, I'm dodging the car, and this is the game, right? This is the game. Now in this, you need to find how many bugs are there. There are some bugs over here, and what are the bugs, right? That is what you need to find. Okay, so that was the aim, right? That was the objective. A lot of you all have found it. You all have found wonderfully well, and you found all of those. So there are about 5, right? There are 5 bugs. Let's see, right? Let's see how many of y'all have found, right? Presmic says 3 bugs found, right? Awesome, right? Presmic, say, right, which ones, right? Which ones, what are they? Juman has already asked that, right? Great, awesome. Presmic says right, left, swapped, and not counting score. Absolutely right. That is perfect, right? That's the first one. Binu says the score of the car game is not updating, right? So that is correct. Okay. Stephen says left button, right button goes left, left button goes right, and that is spot on, right? Stephen says spot on. See, you don't just communicate that the buttons are not working or the left right buttons are not working. No, right? See, there is additional part to it. What is the additional part? See, when I'm seeing here, right? See, when you click on restart, okay, so when I click on right, it goes left. It's not like the right button is not working. Right button works, but it goes left, right? So it's working the opposite. Okay, so you just don't say that the right button is not working. No, right button is not working because it goes left, right? That additional part also has to be mentioned. Okay, and the left button, same for the left button. When you click on the left button, it is going right, right? So that is what I was doing, right? It's not clearly visible here until unless you practically do it. When I was pressing the right button, the car was going left. When I was pressing the left button, the car was going right. Okay, so that is the issue, right? That is the big issue. These are the 2 bugs. So those are 2 bugs. Okay, and third one, right, very well noted by Binu Presmic, right, is absolutely correct that the score is not updating. If you see, right, let me restart this again. And if you see this, right, so so many cars have been passing by, right, but my score does not update, right? It just shows me a 0, right? Why not? It should update the score, right? Like I played so well, there were so many cars passing by. I should get 10, 20 something, right? But no, nothing, right? So the score is not updating at all. Do what you want to, right? You can keep playing it for 10 minutes, so you can have thousands cars passing by, but your score will remain 0. So what's the point of playing, right? So score is not updating. That is another bug, right? So very well pointed out by Francisco also, right? Francisco has also pointed out the score does not go up, car bounces on hitting the edge. Okay, I'm coming to that, Francisco. Theodora says car does not go up or down, right? I mean forward, backwards. Theodora, that is correct, right? That is correct. It does not go forward, backwards, but it does not say in the instruction also, right? So nowhere in the instruction it says that use the up arrow to make it move forward or the back arrow, down arrow to make it move backward, right? That is not the instruction provided. So if that is not provided, then it's not kind of a bug, right? You cannot say it to be a bug because you expect that, right? Because we expect up button to make it move forward. That is correct, right? From that perspective, it is correct, but the instructions nowhere mention it. Okay, so the bug could be right, or you can, in the recommendation, the requirements, we can add these things, right? You can add these things that the up arrow should be there for the car up, or down arrow should be there, right? So that can be in the recommendations, but it's not a bug, right? Technically, you'll not quantify it as a bug. Okay. Okay. Francisco says Inas says direction button is wrong, right? That is correct, Inas. Okay, Francisco's score does not go up, right? That is correct. Car bounces on hitting the edge. Restarting does not actually restart. Commands are reversed, right? So great, commands are reversed. We have discussed that. Okay, and hitting the edge, right? Hitting on the edge, the car bounces. So that is also one wonderful bug, right? So car is bouncing if you hit on the edge, right? You go on the right, it just bounces back, right? So it's actually not taking instruction further, right? It's bouncing back. So that is another one, right? Restarting does not actually restart. That is also another one, right? So when you restart, exactly, Francisco, restarting does not actually restart. Francisco, it does restart, right? So see, here is where the communication also plays a key factor, right? So Francisco says restarting does not actually restart. It actually does not restart. That is correct, right? That is correct. I know what Francisco is saying because we had a discussion in the breakout room, right? We chatted, so I know what he was saying. So the thing is that when you click on the restart, the car does not restart from the very beginning. It will only show you your last position. So if you look at it, right? So let's say I click on this restart. I'll quickly look at it. Look at the car position, right? It was on the left hand side somewhere over here. So I click on this, see it's here, right? And let's say I bang here, right? Now, if I click on restart, it'll start from the same position. That should not be the case. It should not start from a last position. It should start from the very start, right? From the center. I should get a restart opportunity, right? Because that is the meaning of restart, right? You're restarting the game, okay, and not just from your last position. So that is another bug. Okay, so if I crash here, again the car will start from here, right? If you see, if I click on restart again, it will start from here, right? So that is another bug, right? That's the bug that we have, and that is what Francisco was saying. Okay, Stephen says restart game starts from last crash position, not from a same spot, right? Absolutely, right, Stephen. That is wonderful, right? That is brilliant. Okay, Francisco says, and on mobile, there's an orange button that does nothing. Oh, okay. I didn't see this in the mobile, right, Francisco? That is something I did not see, right? So great one, right? Great one, Francisco. This could be another bug, right? I haven't seen this one. You all can test it out, right? See in the mobile version of it, whether it's does it show or not, right? See, you can always inspect and you can choose the mobile version if you want, right? Let's say we want to run it in iPhone 14 Pro Max, right? And let's just refresh this page. This is how you can choose it, right? So yeah, there is an orange button, right? That is correct, which actually starts the game, right? It starts the game, and after that it does nothing, right? After that it does nothing. Okay, so yeah, orange button initially starts the game, right? But after that does nothing. Okay, so Francisco, yes, right, so that is correct, right? The orange button is there. Wonderful, right? Great find, Francisco. And this is how you explore, right? This is the exploratory testing. This is how you explore and test for various bugs. Okay, Inas says no quit button, right? Brilliant, right, Inas? That is also brilliant. Okay, they should have a quit button, right? If let's say in the middle of the game you want to exit, right? You don't want to play the game. Okay, then what? You cannot exit it. Okay, so brilliant, right, Ines? That is correct, right? BB says the button doesn't work, the score always stays a 0. Absolutely right, that is perfect. Jixing says restart actually continue, right? Perfect, right, Jixing? That is correct. Okay, correct. Stephen says one spacebar is clicked to start the car, selects a direction and moves without user command to start, which makes the car crash into another, right? Great, Stephen. Valentina says, I feel I should have started the test with documentation on my side. Yeah, Valentina, yes, right. Yeah, because there are a lot of stuff, right? There's a lot of things. And yeah, documentation is definitely important, right? Now, see, you might find these bugs as very, very trivial, okay? Like it's a simple bug, but documenting them is very, very important. And each step of how you document them so that the other person uh, can recreate it, right? So that they understand it very well, how to recreate the same bug. For example, I'll say that step one is, let me go back to the main one, right? Let's refresh, okay? So I'll say step one is that I press space, right? And then I press the left button, okay? And the car moves right, right? So you say step one, step two, step three, right? So give it as detailed as possible, not just that the buttons are swapped, right? Not that, okay? Detail, right? Step one is that I click on this, I click on the start button, I click on the space bar, or I click on the restart, then I click on the right button, the car moves left, and I click on the left button, the car moves right. So step by step, right? So that is where communication and documentation plays a key role, right? The more clear it is, the better it is for the team to understand and to resolve that bug. Okay, so that is correct. Stephen says, oh, so not a bug, right? If not in the original instruction, got it? Because I felt not going up or down was a bug, right? Yeah, Stephen, right? Yeah, I wouldn't classify it as a bug, right? I wouldn't classify it as a bug because not all controls are given, right? So it's if they had mentioned that in the instructions that you press this button and this will happen, and that does not happen, right? Then it's a bug. Okay. Theodore says, but if they're planned, right? If they're planned to not design it in that way, right? It's their design. It could be a bad design, right? That is where the quality comes into the picture. Now you see the difference between quality and testing. Okay, that is the quality comes into the picture, right? That the quality of the game is poor, right? That you should have up down arrows also, right? So that is from the quality perspective of it. But if their design is only right, they had implemented that we'll only use left right, right? That is what they had designed for, right? And that is the instruction they've provided. So the quality is poor, but the bugs is only for the left right. Right. Makes sense, right? Makes sense, Stephen. Right. Stephen says, right. Yeah, he's got it. Okay. Theodora says, yes, but it also says to move your car, use the arrow keys. So it doesn't say not to use the up, down arrows either. It actually shows you, right? It actually shows you the left and right arrow, right? Theodora? So it shows you, right? So it's basically to move your car, use the arrow keys, right? So this left and right, it shows you specifically for that. But yes, right, that again should be there in the instructions properly, right? So that is also correct. But yeah, the very fact, right, of them showing this graphical image of a right arrow and left arrow is that they want to say that these arrows is what is supposed to be used. Okay. Okay, Presmic says, and the car shouldn't move after restart, right? Absolutely. Theodora says, also it's car racing, so going forward would be the main point, right? Theodora, correct, right? Correct. But I have seen some, right? I have seen some where you have these earlier in earlier games. There used to be these kind of games, right? There used to be these kind of games where you just dodge, right? You just go left, right, and you're just dodging. Okay, and those games were there, right? Those games were there initially. I remember a few games such as those. But yeah, that's not from the quality perspective, but yeah, though those games were there, right? Those design games were there. Okay. Tira says also it's car. Yeah, okay. Ina says, please, what did you just do to change the mobile version? Okay, yeah, great, right? Ina's right. Yeah. I'll show it to you again, right? I'll show it to you again because this comes later, right? This comes later in your program as well. But because I showed it to you, right? Let's look at it also. Okay. So you right click, right? You right click on your page and you click on inspect. Okay, right click and you click on inspect, and over here you'll see a small button, right? Here you'll see a small button which you can use to toggle the device, right? So you can click on this and you'll see that you will get options over here, right? Drop down options over here. By default, it will come as a mobile, and you can click on this drop down to choose whichever one you want, right? You want an iPhone SE, you want an iPhone 10R, you want an iPhone 12 Pro, Pixel 7, Samsung Galaxy S8, right? Ultra, iPad, right? iPad Air, iPad Pro, whichever you can choose from this, okay? And the screen will become that, right? But the only thing is that you should refresh once because the way they design the web pages is that it's for the specific screen, right? So you refresh, then it will load for that particular screen. All right, so do that, right? So that is the steps, right? Make sense, Ines? Francisco says, actually, but maybe that's more of a UI issue. The blank part of the screen is mobile, is reversed for the touch control, but we have no use for that space on desktop. Should be covered by the game itself, right? Absolutely, right, Francisco? Yes, that is correct, right? That is correct. Absolutely. Okay. Seraphim says, type down the steps to reproduce each bug. That's going to help the developer to check the bug, fix the issue on the game. Absolutely, right, Seraphim? Thank you, right? Thank you. And Seraphim has shared a perfect example, right? So look at this example, steps to reproduce the issue, right? So first point is open the URL. Second is press space keyboard on the keyboard, right? Third is press the right arrow key on your keyboard. And fourth is observe the behavior. Okay, so this is how you note it down step by step, right? That is where your communication and step-by-step documentation comes into the picture. Okay, so that is wonderful, right? Thank you, Seraphim, right? Wonderful example. Okay, so that's about it, right? That was the game, right? That was a game, Bug Bash, to help you understand how bugs are there, right? How you identify the bugs, how you can identify them, how you can document them, how you can know them, right? So that is some skills, right? Some bug spotting skills, okay, in a fun and engaging way. Okay, I hope you all had that fun. You can try it out later on also, right? If you were not able to try it out right now, you can try it out later, and you can go through this link is provided in the lecture. Okay, moving forward, right? Let's move forward to software development lifecycle, right? Now we have something known as SDLC. SDLC, right? What is SDLC? SDLC is basically the software development lifecycle. Now, what is a development lifecycle? It is a series of steps or phases that software development teams follow to design, develop, test, deploy, and maintain software applications. Okay, so it's the basic entire cycle, right, of designing, of developing, testing, deploying, and maintaining the application. Each phase of the STLC represents a distinct stage in the software development process with defined objectives, deliverables, and activities. Okay. The STLC typically consists of 6 phases, right? So you have 6 phases over here. However, some models may include an additional phase for deployment or release management, that is additional, but typically you have 6, right? What are those 6 phases? First is the requirement analysis, right? What is the requirement analysis? First, during the analysis phase, you discuss with the stakeholders, right? Discuss with the stakeholders, identify and document the requirements and objectives of the software project, right? That is very, very important, right? This is a very important phase because you should know exactly what is required, right? What is required in the project. And mind you, by the way, this is the software development lifecycle, right? Not talking about the software testing lifecycle. Software testing lifecycle is different. We'll talk about that, right? But this is the development lifecycle that the development team goes through, right? This is the entire lifecycle of the software development. Okay, so you as a software tester are not required to go through all these phases, right? That's not really required for you. But but you should know, right? You should know what are the phases, what is the cycle, and where the testing comes into the picture. Okay, so in the phase, right, in the phase of software development lifecycle, first is the requirement analysis, right? So they take the analysis, right? They discuss with the stakeholders and identify and document each and every requirement and what is the objective of the project. Okay, because the clarity on that will help you design it appropriately, right? Because if there's no clarity on that, the design fails, right? And the implementation will fail. Okay, and simultaneously, what happens is, let's say, uh, later on, right? Later on, the stakeholder comes in and says that I wanted this functionality. Why was this not done? Right. And once you try to backtrack it and add the functionality later on, that results in a lot of more bugs, right? As compared to if you have it from initial stage. Okay, because the system design, right? The next phase that you see is the system design, right? That will not work correctly because you had designed initially based on the requirement analyzed, right? So some requirements had been analyzed and you design the system accordingly. Okay, so in this phase, the designers and developers create a blueprint or design document outlining the architecture, the user interface, the functionality of the software, right? So everything is design, right? Design, I don't mean that you have coded everything right now. The coding part is not done yet, right? It's still design, right? You have various tools that you can use to make the UI, right? You can create the blueprint and you can design it. That's the system design, right? Now, after the development, right? Third stage is the development. In this stage, what you do, in this stage, the developers write the code. This is where you're writing the code. This is where you're actually implementing it, right? You're developing it. Okay, so based on what? Based on the system design that was created, the developers start developing it. Okay, so now you can understand, right? Once the development stage is over, right? And then you go on and you change the system design. That is what breaks a lot of development, right? So the code base, it breaks a lot of that, right? Because some things might not work correctly, right? Because the team has done some design in a certain aspect, and then later you are adding some functionality which might not adhere to the main design, right? And that might break stuff. Okay, so therefore this is very, very important, right? Understand the requirements properly, that these things are required. Okay, design it correctly, right? Not exactly you, but the development team, and should know, right? These are important even from testing, right? Even for testers, we'll look at the software testing life cycle, but these are important. Okay, and design it properly, and then the development, right? Once you write the code, you develop the code, right? And build the software according to the requirements. Then you go into the testing phase, right? This is where the testing comes into the picture, right? This is where testers execute various tests to identify and fix defects, right, of the issues in the software, ensuring that it meets the quality standards. So once the development has been done, right, once we have a code base ready, right, the developers have created some code base of the project, then we do testing, right? Then we can do testing. This is where testers execute the tests. Okay, how we do the test or what kind of test, those are different types of tests, right? We'll discuss on the different types of testing and various strategies that you can use, the tools that you can use. Is a different topic altogether. Okay, but this is the phase where it comes, right? So you have the requirements, you have the design, you have the development, and then you have the testing. Okay, once the testing has been done and sufficient confidence has been built on the product, then you deploy it. Deploy means what? Deploy means that you are finally posting it in the server, right? So there's a server and you are making it live for everyone to access it. Okay, so that is deployment. Okay, so in the deployment, the software is deployed and released to end users or customers. Right. And the last stage is maintenance, right? You have the maintenance where after deployment, right, you might have some issues or you might want to update, right? You might feel that, okay, this was not done correctly. We want to update it. So you keep maintaining it, right? Maintaining, you keep sending updates, and like WhatsApp keeps sends you updates, or iOS, right, keeps sends you updates, right? Or Microsoft, right, operating system, Windows, right, keeps sending you updates, right? So those are updates, right? You keep sending updates to ensure optimal performance based on whatever logs you get. Okay, let's look at an example, right? Let's look at an example. So let's walk through the SDLC using the example of an e-commerce website. Okay, first thing that we do is requirement, right? That was the first stage, requirement analysis. So define the key features like a product catalog. When you're designing an e-commerce website, what are the things you should have? One, you should have a product catalog, right? So products could be displayed, right? So a catalog for a product, right? You should have a shopping cart. So whenever people from that product catalog, they want to add a product to the cart, you should have a shopping cart where people can see, okay, this is my cart, right? And once people have chosen their products, there should be some payment options. There should be some payment options which will enable users to complete the payment and purchase the products. Okay. Third thing is the user accounts, right? You should have the user accounts through stakeholder interviews, right? So these are the requirements that are required in the project. Next phase comes is the design. Now create wireframes and database structures for managing products. What are wireframes? See, wireframes are mock-up, right? They are mock-up of how the interface looks like and how all the features will look like. Where will the button go? So that's a mock-up, right? It's the mock-up of the designs. It's more for the UI UX engineers, right? It's for them. But not don't worry from the software testing perspective. But from I'm telling you for your understanding, right? Wireframes is for the design, right? And you have several tools to create wireframes, right? You can have several tools to create wireframes. Database is for where your data is stored, right? So let's say you sign up on a website or you have sent in some details. So database is where all your data is stored, right? Which products you have purchased, what you've purchased, right? And what are the products, what are the users, right? All those is stored in the database. Okay. Now the database has to be structured, right? First you need to design, and you should know what is the structure of that database. Okay. So designing that, right? So that is the design phase. Third is your development, right? Now you actually develop. So you build the front end using, let's say, HTML is a language, right? It's a hypertext markup language, is where all your websites are designed, right? So HTML, CSS, JavaScript, these three are commonly used to design your page, right? So any website that you see is designed using these languages. And the backend is the server-side logic for user login, product listings, and order processing. So these are the backend logic, right? There you have programs such as Java, Python, right? You have different coding languages that is used at the backend for the server-side logic, right? And these are for the front side, right? So this is the development, right? This is where the developers are creating. There are different engineers for the backend. There are different engineers for the front end, and they are working on building the product, right? Once they have developed it, then you come to the testing phase. Now is where you're testing, right? So you test whether the product that has been built so far is usable. Are the features working correctly? Like the checkout button, is it working correctly? Or like in the initial, in our initial discussion, right? Someone said that the filter functionality for vegetarian, non-vegetarian was not working correctly, right? So whether those are working, or the load more, right? When you wanted to load more products, right? That was working correctly or not. Okay. And performance under load, right? So how the product is performing under load, right? So these things is what we test, right? Once the testing phase is done, you go into deployment. Deployment is then the launch of the site. Once you are uh, confident of the testing phase and you sent your analysis report to the team, to the stakeholders, and they see that, yeah, this is perfect, right? This is good. We are good to deploy. Then they deploy, right? You launch the site to a production server for real customers to use. And lastly, you have the maintenance and support, right? So now you can monitor and perform fixes, right? So let's say if you want to update the card button, right, with some additional functionalities for recommendations, right? You can update your cards. Okay, so that is the maintenance, right? You can apply those updates. Okay, so each phase, right? Each phase of The STLC plays crucial role in ensuring the successful delivery of the software projects. Let's delve deeper into each phase. Okay, makes sense, right? Makes sense. Any questions? Any questions so far? Okay, Valentina says which phases are involving testers apart from 4-5, right? IC Seraphim has provided the answer, right? Great, awesome. Thank you. Jixing says 6 also, I think. Any update without testing could cause disaster. Absolutely right, Jason. That is correct, right? That is correct, right? If you see, whenever you update, right? Whenever you update, yeah, it goes, right? So it's not exactly that testing goes only here, no, right? So we'll discuss more of this, but it's the process. It's a continuation process, right? It's a continuous process. It's not that once testing is done, deployed, it's over. No, right? For maintenance also, and for additional testing also, this keeps happening, right? And it's not that it's a sequential that once it's developed and then you go for testing, right? There is agile methodology and there's waterfall methodology that we'll discuss in the next class, right? So there are different types, right? Different types of models where you build. So in different phases you have different process, right? So you go into the development, you go into the testing, right? You go in development, you go into testing, right? So it alternates, right? You go into this, and once you deploy, then again for any update that you want to provide, you again go for the testing, right? So it's all in a continuation process. It's not that once it's done, it's over. No, right? Never happens like that. It's all a continuation process. Okay. Okay, Binu says, I was wondering if you release a product and once it's been live and if they add new features, new tools, do they also need to go through SDLC from the very beginning or it's done through as maintenance support? Binu, great question, right? That's a great question. It's only in the maintenance, right? It's only in the maintenance. When you want to add the new feature, right? You want to add the new feature, it's only in the maintenance or support because you are applying updates, right? You're fixing and you're just adding new features, right? It's not the SDLC, right? Ina says, Seraphim and Harshit, can you please explain production server more? Do testers have to work with this production server? No, Ines, right? So no, you don't have to work with the production server. See, what is a production server? See, for example, let's say I am building a website, right? Let's say I'm building an e-commerce website. So where do I write the code? When I'm in the development phase. I've understood the requirements from the client. I've understood the design, right? I've created the design and now I'm developing, right? I'm developing and I'm creating the code. Where will I create the code? I will create it in my laptop, right? In my machine. So it is in my local machine, right? I'm writing the code and I can view it in my own machine, right? I can see it, how it's working, right? But it's only for me. It's only inside my machine. That code and those files are only in my machine. Okay. So you cannot access it, right? So even if I've completed the development, right? I've completed and I've created a brilliant website, just like Amazon, and everything is working correctly, right? I've done the testing, everything is done, right? And it's there, right? I've built it, okay? But the code is still there with me. No one else is able to access it, right? It's still with me, right? So now, in order to make it to accessible to everyone, there are something known as servers. What are these servers? These servers, you can imagine them as pieces of computers, right? There are pieces of computers in remote area, right? Not remote area, but imagine it as a cloud for you, right? So for you it's a cloud, but these are huge data centers, right? So you have these servers, okay, like huge computers, right? And so for you, you can imagine it that it's in a cloud, right? It's somewhere else. Okay. Now deployment means what? Your code, right? Your code that was in your machine. Now you're sending it over there, right? So you are sending it over there and it's now in that server, right? So it's in the cloud over there. Now everyone is able to access that, right? So it's over there. So everyone is able to access that because when I do something like, let's say I go on this website, right? This studio.code.org, right? While accessing this game, I went to this website. So this is actually, it's the code files of this particular website are located in that server. So when I press enter over here in this .com, right? Or this .org, I press enter, a request is sent, right? From my browser. Chrome browser will send a request to that server that, hey, look, I want these files. Please give me this, right? And those files, that code is sent back. What is that code, right? If you right click this, you can see this, right? So this is the code, right? This is the code that is sent by that server. So the developer had written this piece of code that is sent back by the server, right? Once the server sends back, the browser makes it look like this, right? Browser beautifies it and makes it look like this to you. Okay. So that is the server, right? That is the server. Makes sense, Binu, right? Binu says, got it, right? Awesome, awesome. Sorry, that was Enos, right? Enos, clear, right? Clear. right? Ines is perfect, right? Thanks, right? Great, awesome, awesome. And Ines, in case, right, any issues or anything, right, you can always reach out to Seraphim for a one-to-one for more discussion on that, right? Okay, moving forward, right? Moving forward, activities in the software level development lifecycle. So like we discussed, you have the requirement analysis. So what do you do in requirement analysis? You conduct interviews, surveys, and workshops with stakeholders to gather the requirements. Document the functional, non-functional requirements, including features, user stories, acceptance criteria. Do not worry about these keywords because all of these will be dealt with in details in later on lectures. So these are what are functional components, non-functional requirements, right? User stories, acceptance criteria. What are these? Everything is there in your future lessons when we deep dive into those topics, right? You prioritize requirements based on business value and project constraints. Okay, system design, what do you do here? Like I told you, you define the architecture, including the hardware and software components. You develop the user interface designs, the wireframes, the prototypes. Okay, you specify your data models, the database schemas, and system integration points. You review and refine the design based on the feedback and requirements. Okay, deployment, right? What do you do here? You write the code modules or components and use the programming languages. Development, right? Sorry, this is not the deployment, this is development. Okay, you're writing the code here, right? And basically components, right? You break it down into various components and don't worry much about this because this is more of the software developers, right? This is developers part. They use frameworks, right? They use development tools and they integrate third-party libraries, APIs, right? Services, and they conduct review, right? Peer testing to ensure code quality and consistency. After this comes the testing phase, right? And this goes on continuous, right? It's a continuous phase, right? You develop sub part, you test, right? It's not that the entire testers are just waiting for the entire development to get over. No, some part of it is developed, it goes to the testing, right? Testers test that, right? Any feedback, they send it back, right? That is again worked on. Okay, and another part is developed, then again goes to testing. Okay, so it's a continuous process, right? That happens again and again. Then you go testing, right? You develop the test cases based on requirements and the use cases. You execute various types of tests, including the unit test, integration test, system test. Again, unit test, integration test, system test, all these are different types of testing that is there. You have a specific lesson on it later on. All these specific types of testing are there. So don't stress too much about it right now. It's there in your lessons and we'll deep dive into these types of tests. Okay. Identify and report the defects or issues found during your testing. Verify that the software meets acceptance criteria and user expectations or not. Okay, then is the deployment, right? You prepare for deployment like I told you, and you monitor the deployment process, address any issues, communicate with the stakeholders and end users about the release and schedule of the changes. Okay, maintenance, right? Monitor and analyze the system performance, user feedback, address bugs, defects, issues reported by the users, implement the software updates, patches, enhancements, and provide technical support training and documentation to end users, right? That's for the maintenance part. Okay, now where are testers, right? Where are testers in each of these phase? In analysis. So during the analysis, collaborate and understand the requirements and identifying risk-based test priorities, right? So the testers are there with the analysis phase also, right? They're there. You're collaborating and understanding the requirements and identifying which are risk-based test priorities. Okay. During the design phase, you review the system design and define test conditions and scenarios. So you can see the design, right? You've seen the design, how the system is being designed. And oftentimes, based on your experience, you know that this design could have some bugs, right? And so you can put in your input, right? You can provide your input that we should not design it like this, we should design it like this, because this is likely to have a bug. Okay, so that is the design phase, right? And then in development, you provide feedback. Like I told you, it's a continuous phase. You keep providing feedback on code changes and contribute to the automation setup. Okay, and testing, execute test, right? This is where you test the functional, regression, and integration testing to identify defects and confirm quality. Deployment, you validate the production readiness with final testing and verify release criteria. Maintenance is support defect tracking, patch validation, and regression testing after the updates. All right. So these are the various phases of the SDLC, right? We have the exercise, right? Let's look at the exercise. Suppose you are part of a team developing a new mobile banking application for a financial institution. Okay. You and other developers are currently writing code, based on the design specification, building the software according to the project requirements. Which stage of the SDLC does the step belong to, right? Which stage of the SDLC do you think this belongs to? Development, right? Development, right? Absolutely, right? That is perfect, right? It is correct, 100% correct, right? You're in the development phase, okay? In the development because you and other developers are currently writing code based on the design specification, right? So absolutely, right? Development is correct, 100%. Well done, right? Well done. So it shows, right? You all have understood, right? You all have understood, right? Well done. Okay. Now you have the software testing lifecycle, right? This is the STLC. It is a software testing lifecycle. Okay. What this does, right? So the software testing lifecycle is a systematic approach to testing software applications throughout the development lifecycle. It outlines a series of phases, activities, and deliverables that testers follow to ensure thorough testing and validation of the software's quality and functionality. The STLC complements the software development life cycles by integrating testing activities into each phase of the development process. So STLC integrates the testing activities in each phase of the development process that we talked about last time, right? And that is your STLC. So what is your STLC? You have first requirement analysis that we discussed, right? So in this phase, you are analyzing the requirements to understand the scope of the testing, right? So here, when the requirement analysis is being done, you are looking at from the testing perspective, right? So defining the test objectives, identifying the test priorities, right? You review the documents, user stories, and acceptance criteria. Ensure the clarity and completeness is there from the testing perspective. Okay, there's a test planning, right? Test planning involves developing a comprehensive test plan that outlines the testing approach, strategies and resources and timelines for the project, right? So you plan the test cases. Okay, then you develop those test cases, right? Once you have planned those test cases, you develop those test cases. This involves designing and documenting individual test cases that cover various functionalities, features, and user scenario of the software, right? Testers create detailed test cases that specify inputs and expected outcomes, conditions, and the test setups. Okay, and the test steps. Okay. If the environment setup, right, like I told you, every system has a different environment, right? It involves the hardware, the software, right? So my software tools, right? My, let's say the versions of Java that I'm using or the hardware that I'm using could be different from what you're using, right? And the test data, right, to facilitate the text execution, all that comes under the environment of the setup. Okay. Then you have the test execution. Test execution phase is where you actually execute the test that were designed, and they perform the functional testing, regression testing, integration testing, and other types of testing. Right now, don't worry about what this is: functional, regression, integration. These are all different types of testing, and these are like what kind of testings you can do, right? And we'll deep dive into these types of testing in our lesson of types of testing. Okay, so validate the software's behavior and verify that it meets the specified criteria. That is test cycle closure, right? Test cycle closure involves evaluating the test results and documenting defects, reporting testing metrics, and finding to the stakeholders. Testers review test execution reports, analyze test coverage, and assess the overall quality of the software. Okay, so that is your STLC, right? That is your STLC. And you can see from the example of our e-commerce website as well, we first review the requirements. For example, a registration checkout is required, identify what needs to be tested, functionality or the performance and security. What all do we need to check, right? What all we need to test? Do you need to test the functionality, the performance, or the security, right? And what else? Okay, test planning, right? So create the test plan, right? Outline the scope, scenarios, what resources are required, develop the test case, okay? Set up the environment, right? And execution, set up environment. For example, let's say you need to use a tool like Selenium, right? Or JMeter, okay? You need to set that up, right? The version should be correct. The setup should be there. Okay, test execution is run the test cases, right? Log the defects and retest after the fix to ensure that stability is there or not. Test cycle closure, wrap up testing with a summary report, right? Which is very important. Write a summary report and the team will review the document for the lessons learned, right? So that is your STLC. Okay, makes sense, right? So very quickly, we'll see the difference between SDLC and STLC, right? And see, while the SDLC encompasses all phases of the development, right? It includes requirements gathering, design, development, testing, deployment, and maintenance. SDLC specifically focuses on the testing phase within the SDLC. So you have the SDLC, you have the 5 phases, right? And the 6 phases. Okay. In each phase, you have some testing part. right? You have some testing part in the requirements, you have some testing part in the designing, you have some testing part in the development, you have some testing part in the deployment, right? In the maintenance, every stage you have, right? That is the STLC. That part becomes your STLC. Okay, that is a software testing lifecycle. Okay. So in other words, the STLC is a structured approach to testing software applications throughout the development lifecycle, aligning testing activities with the corresponding phases of the STLC. Testers follow the STLC plan, the testing plan, to design, execute, and manage testing activities effectively, ensuring that software products meet quality standards, functional requirements, and user expectations. Okay, by integrating the STLC into the software development lifecycle, organizations can ensure that testing is conducted systematically and comprehensively, so that you have a comprehensive and systematic phase of the testing. Okay, this approach helps identify defects early in the stage, mitigates risk, and delivers high quality software products to end users. Like I told you earlier, the earlier you identify the defects and you resolve that, the more likely to have better quality products. All right. Okay, let's move to our knowledge check, right? So knowledge check is a set of questions, right? We have a set of questions. And before that, let me look at the live chat, right? Do we have any questions? Valentina saying, am I the only one thinking to this TLC? Okay, not sure if I got that, Valentina, but yeah, looks funny, right? Don't go chasing the waterfalls. Okay, I didn't understand that, but yeah, okay. Okay, knowledge check, right? Look at knowledge check, right? Question one. Which of the following best describes the importance of software testing in e-commerce website? Okay. Ensures the website has a modern design and layout. Make sure the website loads quickly on all devices. Verifies that users can search for products, add them to their cart, and complete purchases without issues. Or guarantees that website includes latest social media sharing features, right? Which of these do you think describes the importance of software testing, right? C, right? C, perfect, right? Awesome. Y'all are brilliant, right? Y'all are brilliant. Verifies that users can search for products and add them to their cart and complete the purchase without issues, right? Absolutely, right? Correct, right? Wonderful, right? Great. Look at question number 2. Which of the following best practices best describes, right? Best describes the importance of software testing in a healthcare management system. Verifies that patient data is accurately recorded, securely stored, and easily retrievable by authorized personnel. Guarantees the system includes features for social media connectivity, ensures the system has an attractive and user-friendly interface, or make sure the system can be accessed from any mobile device. Which of this is importance of software testing in healthcare management system? A, right? A. Everyone says A. Okay. Verifies that the patient data is accurately recorded, secured slowly, and easily retrievable by authorized persons. Absolutely correct, right? Absolutely correct. Wonderful. Okay. Now, during which phase, right? So this is the SDLC phase. During which phase of SDLC can software testers have the greatest impact on reducing defect costs, and why? Right. So this is an important one. Do you think in the analysis phase, because identified defects in requirements can prevent costly downstream changes? In the testing phase, because this is where most defects are found and fixed before release. In the deployment, because final acceptance test ensures no defects reach production. Maintenance, because regression testing ensures ongoing stability of the software. Which of these do you think is having the greatest impact in reducing the defect cost in STLC? A, right? A. Okay. Okay. Everyone is saying A. Okay. A is what analysis, because identify defects and requirements can prevent costly. Yes, right? Yes, it should be A, right? Yeah, brilliant, right? Brilliant. Well done, right? Well done, folks, because yeah, if you identify the in the requirements phase, right? So then, like I told you, uh, the trickle down effect, right? So if it's identified early and you fix it for early, right, you avoid the geometric progression of the bug, right? You avoid that. So brilliant, right? Analysis in this stage, if you catch it, then it's absolutely perfect, right? You are having the highest impact over there. Perfect. You are a tester assigned to project developing an online restaurant reservation system. You are currently executing test cases, logging defects, and verifying that the system functions correctly based on requirements. Which phase of the STLC does this step belong to? Which phase of the software testing lifecycle are you in, right? Which phase of STLC does this belong to? Okay. Okay, Ina says B, right? Others are saying B, C, right? C. Inas, which one? B or C? Which one? C, right? C is correct, right? Because see, you are currently executing the test cases and logging the defects. So you are executing. Always look at these keywords. Keywords are very, very important in a question from your ISTQB exam perspective also. When they also have the questions, right? These keywords are important. And that's why these questions are important. It helps you in building that habit of identifying those keywords. So you are executing test cases. Okay, so you're logging the defects, right? And you're verifying that the system works correctly or not, right? You're in the execution phase. So that is absolutely correct, right? C is correct. Okay. Last one, right? Which of the following statements best describe the relation between the software testing lifecycle and the software development lifecycle? The STLC is a broader phase that covers all aspects of the software development process, including design, development, testing, and deployment. Or the STLC is a specialized subset within the SDLC that focuses exclusively on the testing phase, ensuring that testing activities align with each corresponding phase of the SDLC. The SDLC is a subset of STLC. You just need to identify who is a subset of what, right? SDLC is a subset of software testing lifecycle with primary focus on testing activities across different software development stages, or the STLC operates independently of SDLC and only begins after the entire software development process is completed. It's, you see, some options you can outright reject, right? This is absolutely incorrect, right? It's saying that STLC and SDLC are independent, right? Which is not the case. You know that they're intertwined. So it's not the case, right? So some options you can easily cut off. So B, right? B is what you all are saying. B is what STLC is specialized subset within SDLC. That is correct, right? The software testing lifecycle is a specialized subset of the software development lifecycle, right? That focuses exclusively on the testing phase. Absolutely correct, right? Well done, right? Well done. Okay. Okay, so moving forward, right? So that's the conclusion, right? What are the key takeaways that we had? We talked about the ISTQB CTFL certification, which serves as a benchmark for validating foundational testing knowledge and skills, enhancing career prospects in the field of software testing. Testing plays a vital role in software development by identifying defects early, reducing the risk, and improving the overall quality of the software products. We understood that the phases of software development lifecycle, that is the SDLC, and the various phases of STLC, the software testing life cycles, what is the difference between the two and how they are intertwined. Okay. We saw that software testers play diverse roles, including analyzing requirements, designing test cases, executing tests, and reporting defects, contributing significantly to the success of software projects. Right. I have some reflection points, right? These reflection points, when you do your case, right? When you're going through this, you can add these reflections. Okay. So for example, here, the question is that explain the concept uh, and significance of testing in software development. So for this, right, can you explain the concept and significance of software testing in software development? You specify one here, right? You type in one here if you want to say, I'm not sure I can do this yet. Or if you can easily do this on your own, then you specify 4 here, and then you click on submit answer. Okay. If let's say I can do this with minimal support, then you press 3, right? For the next question, let's say identify and describe the role of testing in each phase of the life cycle. If you can do it easily, you've understood it, you say 4, right? If not, you say 3, right? Because this is used for analyzing your feedback and see how you are understanding. So these are the questions that you have to do, right? Type in the answer according to your understanding and click on submit answer. And once you have completed the lesson, make sure to click on mark as complete also. Okay. So that is the thing, right? That is the thing. This is the end of the lesson. Now we will do a very, very interactive and very fun Kahoot quiz, right? This Kahoot quiz is for, there'll be a bunch of questions, right? There'll be a bunch of questions that you need to answer. And based on what we learned today, okay? So I will share that, right? I will share that. One second, let me reshare the screen for that. And let me just start the Kahoot quiz, okay? Okay. Uh, so you have to log into the website, right? You have the you have the Kahoot.it, right? So that will be shared by the team. That will be shared. The link of the Kahoot is shared by the team. And once you click on that link, you will need to put in this game pin that is being generated over here, right? The pin is here, and the pin will also be shared by the team, 759324. Okay. So I'll wait for a minute for the participants for you all to join in. Okay. So just enter that website, right? Go to that website, add this pin, and you should be able to join this. Okay. And once I start, you'll see a bunch of questions, right? We'll go next one by one. We'll have a set of 10 questions, and you can enter it, right? You can answer your answers. Okay. Quickly join in, right? Quickly join in. I'll wait for a few seconds. Right. Raya has shared the team pin, right? Please do that. Just you read the answer provided, right? Yes, and done by the team. So
Harshit, I also want to point out what Valentina just shared, that the
yeah,
music
I
is a
just saw
bit too loud. Thank you.
I just saw that, right? I just saw that, right? Yeah, reduce the music, right? I hope now it is okay. All right. Okay, so let's start the quiz, right? I see a lot of y'all have joined, right? Let's start, and quickly give me a thumbs up, right? If the audio is correct, right? You can listen, you can hear me well. Just quickly give me a thumbs up. Okay, awesome, right? Thanks. And by the way, Susan, I said that yes, the team does look into the feedback of it, right? So yes, that is okay. So let's look at Kahoot, right? Kahoot. Question number one, right? And you'll get very less amount of time, right? There'll be 20 seconds. So be fast in your answers, and the faster you answer, more points you get. Okay. So yeah, which phase of the STLC involves preparing a report, summarizing test activities, defects found, and improvements? You have four options over here, right? Requirements analysis, test case development, test execution, or test cycle closure. You have 20 seconds, right? Answer fast. Click on whichever option you think is correct. Click on that, right? You have the question above over here. 5 seconds, right? 4 seconds. Think whatever answer is best for you, right? So 7 of you all got correct, right? That is correct, right? Test cycle closure. Okay, so which phase of STLC involves preparing report, right? That's in the closure phase, right? You're in the closure phase. That is where you prepare the report and summarize all your test activities, what defects you found, what improvements, all that is to be done in the test cycle closure in the last phase, right? So that is correct, right? Great. Others, you said requirement analysis. No, right? Whoever said requirement analysis, it's not right. You do not prepare the report, right? See, the report is done in the last. Summarizing, right? Look at the keywords. You summarize in the end. Okay, not in the start. All right. Let's move to the next question, right? So let's look at the points first. Susie is leading, right? Susie is leading. Stephen is trailing, okay, with 831 points. Let's look at the next question. Okay, what is the benefit of maintaining a low defect rejection rate as a KPI? It ensures the software is completely bug-free. It reflects the quality of the user interface design. It indicates the effective communication between testers and developers, or it speeds up the development process, right? Defect rejection KPI, right? Defect rejection as a KPI. What does it benefit, right? What is the main benefit? Okay, 6 of you all got it correct. Okay, it indicates the effective communication between testers and developers, right? That is correct, right? That is correct. When your rejection rate is, see, KPIs are key performance indicators, right? They're the indicators of your performance. Okay, and when defect rejection rate is low, that means what? That the defects that you found, they were not rejected by the developers. That indicates an effective communication between the testers and the developers, right? So that is this. Correct, right? And a lot of y'all have mentioned it reflects the quality of the user interface design. No, 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 right? See, user interface design has nothing to do with the defect and the rejection, right? Nothing to do with that. Okay. So that is absolutely in the front end, right? So let's see. Okay, Susie is in the lead, right? Susie's in the lead. Great. Theodora is trailing behind, right? Catching up fast. Great. Awesome, Susie. Very well, doing very well. All right. Okay. After launching a food delivery app, you notice performance issues during peak traffic. Which SDLC phase is addresses this, right? Requirement analysis, maintenance, deployment, testing. Which phase is being addressed here? during peak traffic, right? So there's peak traffic, there's a food delivery app, right? During peak traffic, you notice some performance issues, right? Absolutely, right? Brilliant. Most of y'all have got it correct. During maintenance, right? Because it's already deployed, okay? And now you're seeing performance issues only during the peak traffic. So deployment is done, everything is done, right? All the stages are done. You're in the maintenance, right? You need to maintain it. Absolutely perfect, right? Brilliant. Okay, Susie is still in the lead, right? You're closing up, right? Closing up. I see the race being heated, right? Keep going, right? Keep going. Awesome. We are in the fourth question. Which key role would a software tester play in the development of a retail mobile app? Right? Key role a software tester would play in the development of a retail mobile app. Designing the user interface, writing the code for new features, testing the checkout process to ensure accuracy, or handling customer complaints, right? Which the software tester, right? Software tester will play which role here? They write the code? No, right? Perfect, right? Great. I see everyone except one, right? Except one. Who said writing code, right? See, I told you, writing code is not part of the software tester. That is the developer's part, right? Testing the checkout process, right? That is correct, right? Testing for the accuracy, that is correct, right? This is for the testers, right? That's for the software testers, right? Well done, right? Susie's still in the lead, right? Susie's still in the lead. Theodora, very catching up very well. Okay. Which phase, right? Next question. Which phase of the STLC involves defining the scope and objectives of testing? The phase of STLC, software testing lifecycle, requirement analysis, test planning, test cycle closure, or test execution. Which one defines the scope and objectives of testing? You're defining the scope and objectives of your testing, right? Which phase will you do that in? Requirement analysis, right? Well done, right? Well done. It's not in the planning, right? See, test planning is when you're planning a specific test, right? You're not defining the scope and objectives of the testing, right? That is to be done in the requirement analysis phase. That you do in the analysis. Test planning is you plan the specific test, right? So let's say for the cart, for the software cart, I need to uh, plan that this test, right? That is specific. Theodora has crossed, right? Great. Theodora has crossed Susie. Okay, well done, right? Theodora in the lead. Awesome, right? Moving to the next question. What is the main difference between software quality assurance and software testing, right? The one that we discussed. Okay, software quality assurance and software testing, right? The main difference. QA involves only manual testing. Testing involves automation. QA happens after testing is complete, or QA focuses preventing defects, testing focus on identifying defects. QA is about software performance, testing is about user experience. Which one? Great job, right? 8 of y'all have got it correct. QA focus on preventing defects, testing focus on identifying defects, right? Absolutely correct, right? Great, right? Absolutely correct. That is correct. Okay, well done. Theodora still in the lead, right? Fatiha in the second, right? Susie third place. Catching up, right? Catching up very fast. Okay. In the context of software testing, what does defect severity measure? In software testing, what does defect severity measure? The impact of defect on software functionality, the complexity of fixing the defect, the amount of time it takes to fix the defect, or the number of lines of code affected by a defect, right? Which one is the defect severity measure? Great, right? Well done. I didn't expect this, but a lot of y'all have got it correct. The impact of defect on software functionality, right? What is the impact of the defect on the software functionality? That is the defect severity, right? That is what it measures, right? Well done, right? Well done. Perfect. Awesome. Awesome. Theodora still in the lead, right? Fatia behind, right? Closing on, closing on. Great, great, great. Excellent. Okay. Which of the following best explains the primary objective of software testing? Reducing the number of software users, verifying the software functions according to specifications, ensuring the software is aesthetically pleasing, or increasing development lifecycle. Which of this is the primary? Best explain the primary objective of software testing, right? Explanation of software testing. Okay, great job, right? No one got this incorrect. Okay, only one, right? One got increasing this. Verifying the software functions according to specifications. Absolutely, right? Well done, folks. Okay. Moving on, Theodora still on the lead, right? Great, great going. Fatia catching behind. All right. Ninth question. Which activity best describes the system design phase in the SDLC when developing a healthcare management system? Okay. Similar question that we did, right? Conducting tests to ensure the system's features are user-friendly, deploying the system to the hospital server, or creating wireframes and mockups for the system's user interface, or writing code for patient record management and appointment scheduling. Okay, very, very evenly distributed, right? But no, right? C is correct. Creating wireframes and mockups for the system's user interface, right? That is the system design, right? Describe system design. That is what you're designing, right? In the SDLC, this is not testing, right? This is a development lifecycle. So I told you in the design, they create the wireframes, they create the mockups of how the user interface will look like, and the entire design. Okay, it's not the deploying in the system. Deploying is in the deployment phase, right? Not in the system design. Designing phase was the second phase, right? Deployment was fourth, right? After development testing, and then you deploy fifth. Okay, so not correct, right? Not correct. So this should change a lot of. Okay, Fatia has gotten the lead. Susie is second. Theodora falling behind. Now let's see. Final question, right? Who wins this? Okay, which activity is most associated with the development phase in STLC? STLC development phase, right? Which activity is associated? Writing code based on design specifications, releasing the software to users, documenting user requirements, or testing the software for defects. Which of them is in the development phase, right? Quickly, right, as soon as you can find the answer, this one is great job, right? Great job by everyone writing code based on the design specifications. Absolutely, right? Writing code is the development phase of the SDLC, right? Let's look at the podium now. Who is on the third place? We have Theodora in the third place, right? Well done. Great job. Excellent. Susie in the second, right? Very well done. And in the first place, we have Fatia could overtake, right? Awesome. Very well done. Congratulations. And there's also Francisco and Samson. Also well played. So great job, right? Great job, guys. Well played, well done, and shows clearly that you have understood a lot of the understanding of the lessons. Great job. So I will stop here and hope